Good evening. I thought it was time to make some bread for tomorrow to bake. So let's bake some sourdough bread. Welcome to my cooking show. I'm happy to have you here. In my last video, the video before this, it's called Sour Saturday Starter. I talk about this starter and what you can do with it and how I maintain it and how I feed it and so on. But basically how you start your bread is by making the starter, and you can have a jar like this and you just put 60 grams of whole wheat flour and 50 grams of water, and then you just wait, and at a certain point you might see a little black liquid. I think it's called mooch. It floats on top, and people say on the internet that it's time to feed it then. But I'm like, I'm just making this starter, so I've just tried to just mix it in, just mix it back in, give it a little stir. It's also good for the starter to just get some strength, and it's perfectly fine. Like once it's bubbly, you know, it just, the liquid disappears and it's totally fine. So make the starter and just forget it for a bit. Mix it every now and then if you get bothered by that black liquid. So in a few days, like 4 days, maybe 5, you should have a good starter. And as I said in my in the video that I made a few days ago, I say that you might want to add a little bit of yeast to this bread if you're just starting out, because your starter might not be at its peak yet. It takes a few weeks, I think, in my experience, for it to get really strong and reliable. So have some yeast on the side if you want to just not put a lot of time and effort into bread that just doesn't rise and just doesn't really do its thing. That's a sad experience. But I would add it just in the end, right? Like a few hours before baking, so that your starter can just do its job fully, and then, you know, a few hours before baking, add it in, and, you know, the yeast, and then you are sure, you know, you can see it also. Like I think you need a little baking experience to go into this, so I think you know what a bread should look like. My recipe is very simple. It's a whole wheat starter, whole wheat flour, some oats, salt and water. That's it. So my recipe, I should also mention, is not this sourdough bakery typical bread that needs a lot of heat and steam and is like, looks like this beautiful bakery bread. My bread is more like this standard sandwich looking bread, you know, but it's just made with whole wheat sourdough, and I put seeds on top for some extra flavor. But yeah, so it's not this typical sourdough bread that you see on Instagram and in bakeries and so on. So, but I'll show you how I do this, and I will just mix this all up. That's very basic. I don't have to show you that. I'll show you when I have the dough and when we start kneading. Okay. So yeah, this is really a no fuss bread. It's very easy to make. Also, I don't like to get my hands sticky, and I don't like to do a lot of kneading and a lot of I want minimal effort sort of here, because there's already a lot of effort going into making sourdough bread. So, but basically here I have 100 grams of sourdough starter. I will link the recipe in the description as well. So 100 grams of sourdough starter, 400 grams of whole wheat flour, 350 grams of water, 100 grams of whole rolled oats, and 2.5 teaspoons of fine sea salt. And now I will just mix it up. I just have like this nice wooden spoon. I like to start to just mix it up in here, and really well. It's really so simple. There's no technique really. Just mix the dough, get it into a ball of dough, and give it a few punches, you know, give it a good massage, and then you're good to go. So my starter is quite active now, and I feel like it works really fast. So I think I'm gonna leave my bread on the counter, but you know, you have to sort of adjust to how active your starter is, to how warm it is in your home, how long you can leave the bread ferment. You know, sometimes you need to make it a little slower, for instance, or a little faster. So you have to adjust the recipe to your own situation, sort of. In some cases, you might want to just leave it in the fridge, you know, for a day, so that it doesn't go crazy while you're not able to attend to it. Yeah, it is not a wet dough. It's quite nice to work with. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. And then we just scrape the spoon. Yeah, I recommend getting a scraper like this. Makes cleaning quite handy. Scrape the sides. Try to knead it a little bit in the bowl. Because we like as little mess as possible. And then swoops onto the counter. And then we will have a little bit of flour here. You can use wet hands, it's actually quite nice, but I find that it sticks a little more. Then you have to kind of have your hands in water back and forth. So I think flours is really the best sort of non-stick tool for you here. Yeah, so we just knead it until we feel like it's really nice and smooth, sort of, for, 10 minutes or something. Or no, not even 10 minutes. That's even a long time of kneading. People say 10 minutes, but I think I never spent that long. I would like to actually try this bread also as a just wheat bread. No, not whole wheat. I think that would also be quite nice. I'm not sure. I think maybe you could try to just use wheat flour. I think it should be fine, actually. I don't think you need to change anything really. Maybe you need to adjust the water content a little bit, but yeah. I think it's quite lovely as a fully whole wheat. Also, you get more nutrients. That's nice, you know, getting more minerals, more vitamins. And it's quite light, I think. It's not a brick kind of bread. Gets nice and fluffy and airy and light. I don't know, of course it also depends on your flour type. Yeah, mine is not even that high in protein. I think it's only 10% protein, so usually it's good to use a 12% protein or 13 if you can find it. But you can see it's quite easy to work with. It's not very wet at all, so just get it smooth, put it back in the bowl. And yeah, that's it. We will leave it to ferment now. I have these very nice beeswax covers that I got from my mom. Really recommend those as a cover. They keep in the moisture nicely, and yeah, it's not plastic. So I don't know, they smell very nice. They smell like honey. We will just leave you on the counter and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning. So it is the next day of our bread baking project, and this is what it has puffed up to. So that's a very nice size of dough. Yeah, I will just shape this dough into a nice sausage for my bread loaf. I'm using this bread loaf. It's like a metal bread loaf. I don't know, it's very old, very rusty, very dirty, and not very proper, but yeah, I don't know, I just keep using it. You want to know that in terms of the baking time and time basically, because if you have a thick ceramic bread form, then it might take a bit longer because it needs to heat up and so on, so just consider that. But I oiled it slightly and then I lined it with baking paper, and the oil is just basically for extra non-stick and also for the paper to just stick and not move around too much. That's nice. And I don't have a fancy technique with shaping my dough. It's just whatever technique comes to me at that on that particular day. But I think we'll just slightly flour the surface here. Not too much. You really don't want too much dry flour getting in your dough, because then you will have like cracks and gaps in your baked bread with like, I'm just gonna try to grab everything here from it sticks a little bit to the bowl. We got everything here. Yeah, I tried to actually just shape it into a square, sort of. Yeah. And then I just fold in the sides to make it a bit. And this dough, as you can see, it's very easy to work with. It's not, it just does as it's told. So now we have like this shape, square, and then I just roll it and press it in, and nothing fancy. I'm not like building tension or anything. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just getting it into an even shape into the bread loaf. But of course, feel free to study, you know, I mean, go crazy with, I just really do minimal work with this bread. So yeah, just like a little sausage. Like that. Approximately just what fits the loaf pan, you know? So, and then I just swoop it into the pan. And there it is. And it usually takes, I would say, 2 hours for it to fully rise, but we will see. So now it's 9 approximately, and let's see when it's ready to bake, and we'll be back. Oh, I forgot to mention, we will cover it as well with the bees wraps so that it doesn't lose any moisture. Don't worry too much about the time that it ferments, like how many hours. It really depends on how active your starter is and how old it is and how good it is and how warm it is. It usually takes longer in the beginning, I would say, when you're just starting out with a new starter. So that might take like 20 plus hours. But mine now took like 13 hours to, well, it's going to take a bit more because now it's rising. So 14, 15 hours maybe in total that my bread fermented. So yeah, but just, you know, keep an eye on it, and it's not this, it doesn't have to be the same amount of time every time, you know, just keep watching it and, you know, follow the process. So we're back and the bread has risen, and I don't want it to rise too much because then it just collapses. I will just now spray the bread. I use this spray bottle, it's quite handy. Use it for my plants as well. And this is just to make the seeds stick to the bread. Give it a generous spray, and then I have some sesame seeds and poppy seeds. And I don't blame you if you want to skip the seeds because they make a mess when you're slicing the bread. But they do add, especially the poppy seeds, they add a really nice flavor, I think. You could also add some salt. This bread is not very salty at all. You could even increase the salt in the bread if you want it more salty. I think it's nice that you have room to just add salt to it, like with deli meat or cheese or whatever. But you could also add salt on top for the crust. Yeah, I've turned the oven up to 180 degrees. 180, 190, like between those. And we're gonna bake it for 1 hour. No fancy steam in the oven, no tricks like that. Just put it in the oven. I will score the bread here in the middle because otherwise it just rises into usually the side. And then it's just not as nice to slice the bread, I feel like. It's better if the opening is at top, then you can kind of nicely slice through that opening. And so it's mostly for convenience that I do it. not for the looks or anything, because I sliced the bread completely anyway. So this is what it looks like. Can you see it? I forgot to mention that the bread rose, or proofed, I guess it's called, for 2.5 hours. So here is our bread, all done. And I took it out of the bread form after it came out of the oven and let it cool on a rack, give it some space to cool, and then don't slice it until it's cooled down. It's not like fully 100%, like 90 to 95% is also fine. So I slice all of the bread and then I either freeze all of it or half of it, and I like to have some on the counter, just to grab. I wrap it in a cloth and then in a plastic bag, put it in the freezer and try to just remove all the air from the bag. But let's slice into this and I'll show you what it looks like. This is the result. Look at that. Just very, actually, it could be even lighter. I think I could have let it proof for a little bit longer, but it's still very fine. So I will slice this up, and I recommend doing thin slices. That's very nice. And a good knife is also very key here. I like a thicker blade and a long knife, serrated, of course. So I will see you in my next video. I don't know what that's gonna be. We will see. Okay, thank you for watching, and good luck if you try this recipe or you are just starting your sourdough journey. Have fun, and again, don't be afraid of using that commercial yeast to just help you out in the beginning so that you can have some good bread to eat. Anyway, okay, see you. Bye.